Hey everyone, thank you so much for stopping by. If you're new, welcome. If not, welcome back. I hope that you had the best week ever. I hope that your weekend is going to be amazing and happy Fibro Friday to you. So, today I'm going to go through some of the things I wish I knew when I was pre diagnosis. This will be more so for the people who are, of course, pre diagnosis but experiencing some sort of chronic pain issues. But even if you've already been diagnosed with fibromyalgia or some other condition, this still may be helpful for you because I'm going to talk about different tests, different strategies for getting the specialist you need so that you can kind of streamline this process and hopefully get closer to a solution soon. So, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice, and all of the disclaimers are also in the description box. But I will tell you what I wish I knew and the order that I wish I had outlined for me when I started on this journey of getting diagnosed. Because if I had these things laid out the way I'm going to lay them out today, it would have saved me so much time, so much energy. It just would have been a much smoother process. You may want to bookmark this video if you are pre-diagnosis or even if you're post-diagnosis. You may want to bookmark it because if you know, like I know, whenever you have a lot of information, it's very easy to forget some of the details. So you may want to bookmark it. And if you know someone suffering from chronic pain that may need a bit of a blueprint for how to go about this thing, feel free to forward it to them. And if you're new here, feel free to subscribe because I'm going to be doing a lot more of these videos that are a bit more targeted and more specific to the needs of people who have chronic illness. Like I said, pre-diagnosis or post-diagnosis. I want to be able to address those needs throughout the process so that you can get more value here on Fibro Fridays. So, first things first, if you have pain that lingers for a bit and you suspect it may be chronic pain, the first thing I want you to do before you call your doctor, before you start trying to create your own comprehensive treatment plan, is to get one of these. Get a notebook. Get a notebook, get a notebook, get a notebook. I got 2 or 3 of these for $1.25 at the Dollar Tree. It's just a plain lined notebook, nothing fancy. Reason why you want a notebook is because when you are getting diagnosed for fibromyalgia specifically, your doctor wants to know that you've been experiencing pain for at least 3 months. That doesn't mean you have to suffer for 3 months. You just want a record of when the pain starts, and you want to be able to keep that record as closely as possible as the days go on. You want to know, okay, this day, this day, this day, these are the issues I had. And some of the symptoms that you may want to record, if you find it kind of overwhelming, you can always go onto Google and search for fibromyalgia symptoms. The truth is, there are dozens of symptoms, so you may be putting down a lot of things. But the most common things that you're going to be looking for to put in your notebook as you are documenting your experience, of course, you want to put down the date. You want to say how you feel overall. Like, are you feeling good? On a scale of 1 to 10, kind of assess yourself and then put down what's hurting you. Are you getting muscle aches and where? Are you getting headaches and where in the head you're experiencing headaches? Are you experiencing jaw pain if you're someone that clenches or has TMJ? Are you experiencing jaw pain? Are you experiencing pain anywhere else in the body? How does the pain feel? Are you experiencing brain fog? Are you experiencing fatigue? Put down whatever you're experiencing physically as well as emotionally. Are you feeling a little anxious? Are you feeling a little depressed? Are you feeling a little hopeless? Put it all down because this gives your doctor some material for understanding where you are in this chronic pain journey. Go ahead, get your notebook, jot it down. I just gave you some of the points, but of course, go to fibromyalgia symptoms on Google, just look it up, see what they've got there, and then create a record of the symptoms using a simple notebook. Try to remember as closely as possible to do this every day, even if you have to set an alarm to remind you. Remind yourself what you need to do. If you have insomnia, that's another symptom that I just thought of, or fitful sleep. That was mine for quite a while. Put all of it down so that you can have a record. Start recording it immediately and do not stop until you have the diagnoses that you want because you don't want to lose track of what you're experiencing because trust me, when you're experiencing a lot of chronic pain issues, it can be very hard to remember how long, how intense, or any of those details. Keep a notebook, try to use it as faithfully as possible, and then you'll be ready for the next step. This next step will depend on whether you have a primary care physician or not. So it kind of goes in two different directions. I'll go the way of no primary care physician. No, we'll go primary care physician route first. If you have a primary care physician, look him or her up online and see the specialties that that doctor lists. If that doctor has a specialty in anything chronic pain related or chronic condition related, you're golden. Usually you can just search the doctor's name, there'll be reviews, and you can kind of figure out from there. If your doctor, my doctor that I had before, I quickly got rid of her once I realized she was not specialized like she said. She said she specialized in chronic fatigue syndrome. I had all of the symptoms and I was suffering for years under her care. And she never once referred me to a rheumatologist, a neurologist, or any other pain management specialist. She was convinced it was all in my head. It took a while. I had to get another doctor. But once I went to another doctor, it was indeed confirmed, of course, that I have fibromyalgia. And I also had some interesting test results along the way that she would have known if she were doing her due diligence. That being said, I will say if you have your primary care physician, look that person up, see what kind of specialties were there or are there online under their profiles. If you do not have a primary care physician, look for one within your insurance network as much as possible and see if that doctor has those specialties with anything chronic pain or chronic condition related, because that person will ideally be primed to identify some of those symptoms in you and determine quickly whether he or she can do tests for it or whether you will need a referral, which is really important to have a doctor that understands that these conditions are real and then be willing to forward you along to someone else. Unfortunately, there are still doctors out there who do not believe some of these chronic pain conditions are even real because they don't show up all the time on lab results. So, already having a doctor that understands that they are real and that believes that you can be treated for them through traditional medicine routes is going to be a huge advantage in getting a diagnosis quickly. So, if you can, get a doctor that believes that fibromyalgia and all these other conditions exist. The next thing you want to do, two things actually. You want to get a doctor's appointment for as quickly as you can to discuss your symptoms. So, whatever doctor you've chosen, go ahead, get an appointment on the books with him or her. You also want to schedule an appointment, if you can, 3 months down the line from the initial appointment or 3 months from the date that you notice chronic condition symptoms beginning. You want to be able to capture the beginning of your treatment through medical routes, as well as when you hit 3 months of experiencing symptoms and making your own notes. You want those two dates. You may not keep that 3 month date. That's fine. You may already have another specialist you're working with. You may have already been diagnosed. But if you aren't diagnosed or quickly put into the pipeline for diagnosis on that first visit, you definitely want that second visit on the books, because that one is the one where if you haven't gotten any relief, you know that you've met your time frame with your own documented records to state that you probably have some sort of chronic condition. So you definitely want to do it like that. Go ahead, get on the books for your doctor as soon as possible. And if you can, set an appointment for 3 months down the line from that date or from the date that you started putting these notes together, so that you can have some record of how long it's been in a medical system and you can work with that information. The next thing, while you are waiting for your doctor's appointment, if you are one of the fortunate few that can get in a day or two, you may not have as much time to do this step. But if you have a week or two, or even a little bit longer, this is going to be really important. Call your insurance company or read through your benefits to figure out what it means for you to go to a doctor within your network, a specialist within your network, outside of your network. Figure out what the lay of the land is with that. One thing you will note, if you have an HMO, you may have different requirements from somebody with a PPO. I have a PPO, which is a preferred provider organization. That is the structure of my insurance. HMO, I believe, is health management organization. Generally, with HMOs, you will need a referral from your doctor to go to any specialist. Whereas with the PPO, you can usually just contact any provider in that network, whether you've been referred or not, and you can get on their calendar for an appointment without having to go through the referral process. So I have absolutely initiated contact with the rheumatologist without being referred by my doctor, because my doctor was the one before that did not properly refer me. I called the rheumatologist, stated I'm having chronic pain and I've been experiencing it for this amount of months. I really need an appointment, and they got me scheduled. Okay. So that's what you can do, right? So that is one thing you want to do. And I'm looking down at my notes to make sure I'm not missing anything. Um, Yes. See if you need a referral to go to these kind of specialists, a rheumatologist, a neurologist, or an orthopedist. I have been to all three. And if you want me to do a video on my experiences with either of these specialties or all together, I'm happy to go dig up my medical records, read through them, and refresh my memory, because it has been years, and tell you what the experiences were like with rheumatology, with neurology, with an orthopedist, because I had different tests with each, different experiences with each, and I learned a lot through each of them, because they're coming at your same condition through three different perspectives. So it was very useful. But anyway, yes, make sure that you are doing what your insurance requires to cover your visit to a specialist, either starting with their process for getting a referral, or if you're fortunate enough to be under a PPO, you can call that specialist yourself, especially if there is a bit of a wait. What I've found is that many specialists have a bit of a long wait. So if you are experiencing chronic pain symptoms, you've already scheduled something with your primary care physician, and you can just call up a neurologist, a rheumatologist, an orthopedist, and say, hey, I'm having chronic pain. I would like an appointment, and it's not a problem. If it doesn't conflict with anything your insurance says, go ahead and get scheduled. You can always cancel it a day or two before the appointment if it's no longer needed. But you'll be glad you had it if you do need it and you've already done all the things with your primary care physician. And the last thing, before you deal with any of these doctors or specialists, familiarize yourself with the various tests that they will probably give you. There are going to be a lot of tests if you are trying to determine if you have fibromyalgia, because there are so many different things they have to cancel out before they can kind of get this, I hate to use the phrase, catch all diagnosis. So I have a list of some of the tests. I'll tell you what some of the tests do, and I'll try to write them down in the description box as well, though I will admit it will be quite a bit of writing, but I'll do my best. The first thing is, when you go to any specialist and you're trying to determine if you have fibromyalgia, they'll do the widespread pain index, which is basically a self-assessment of how you're feeling. They'll also, um, that's the symptom severity scale, but they'll also test your sensitive points. They don't use that as a hard criteria anymore. It used to be, oh, you have to be sensitive in 6 out of 11 points on the body in order for it to be fibromyalgia, and it has to be on both sides. They're not so rigid about that anymore. They use more of the other tests to determine it, but certainly they still use it as a way to measure what's going on with you. So just know you will be filling out many forms saying where you're hurting, um, how severe the pain is on a scale of 1 to 10, describing the pain, all of the things that if you're using your notebook, you'd be capturing. You're going to be reporting that to whatever specialist you work with. The next thing is they're going to do a CBC, which is a complete blood count. They're going to check you for all of your minerals. They're going to check you for anemia. They're going to check you for infection. They're going to check you for all that. Same thing with your analysis. They're going to check you for infection and inflammation. They're really trying to see if your body is inflamed. The reason why inflammation is an important distinction in this is that Fibromyalgia specifically is not an inflammatory condition. You may indeed be inflamed, but it is not the root of the inflammation as a general rule. That's more so running concurrently with it. They want to make sure that your immune system is not in high gear because that makes you autoimmune, which is, of course, rheumatology specialty. But they want to cancel out all the things. They want to see, are you inflamed and are you experiencing something autoimmune going on? Because that takes them in a slightly different direction than fibromyalgia. But they will do your complete blood count. And if you are anemic, the first thing they're going to do is tell you to up your iron, because many of the bodily pain symptoms can also be signs of anemia. Many of the issues that you will experience if you are indeed suffering from fibromyalgia are very similar to anemia symptoms. So just keep that in mind. The next thing they're going to do, or one of the other tests they're going to run, is the erythrocyte sedimentation rate and the C reactive protein. So the erythrocyte sedimentation rate, they basically look at your white, not your white, your red blood cells to see how quickly they fall to the bottom of the test tube. The quicker they fall or the heavier they are, the more likely you're inflamed. So they're doing a visual observation of your blood cells. The C reactive protein, they're looking in your blood to see if that is showing up, that's produced by the liver. If that is showing up, that indicates inflammation. Okay. So they're looking for how inflamed the body is. Again, if you're not that inflamed, it starts to lean toward fibro over some other conditions, but they have to do this process to figure out exactly what's happening. The next thing they're going to do is the thyroid testing, the T4 and the TSH, which is the thyroid something hormone. I can't remember. Stimulating, thyroid stimulating. I did write it down. Thyroid stimulating hormone. So what they want to know quickly is, are you experiencing something hormonal? And if it's hyper or hypothyroidism, completely different treatment path than fibromyalgia. They want to eliminate that. They want to see, are these things out of whack? So they're going to test you for that for sure. Especially if you're a woman. Men can, have issues with this as well. But what I find is that normally the moment you say you don't feel well as a woman, it's been my experience, they check for anemia, they check your thyroid. Those are the two places they go to first. And if those two are not really working, they're not really working well, they can check other things surrounding that. But um, if you're not anemic and if you are not having any kind of thyroid issues, then they start to dive into some of those other tests, which I'll be going into. But for sure, they're going to test your thyroid to see if it's operating functionally or if it's working as it should. The next thing they're going to do are going to be the tests, and this is the tests that I just mentioned are probably going to be through your primary care physician. They will do all of these tests. Now, the tests that I'm about to mention are more specialized, probably going to be in a specialist office, though I do believe any doctor can order them. But just in case you don't get this at your primary care physician, take heart. These tests that I'm mentioning certainly did not come through my regular doctor. They came through my rheumatologist and neurologist for both. So, rheumatoid factor testing, which will be your testing for lupus, it'll be your testing for, um, let's see, yeah, Sjogren's, CCP antibodies, which is rheumatoid arthritis. They're going to check you for the autoimmune stuff. They're going to also look at your anti-nuclear antibodies, or ANA. A positive ANA is almost always going to be an instance of you are suffering from an autoimmune condition. I have gotten positive tests on ANA, only to later find out it's a bit of a false positive, which is why I caution against saying, oh, a positive ANA always means autoimmune condition. I got a false positive, or at least that's what I was told. So you may get a result that it needs to be explored a little further, but certainly they're going to look at any kind of lupus, Sjogren's, Hashimoto's, all of the different autoimmune conditions. They're going to look at them, and they're going to use more specialized testing for that. Okay. One thing they're going to also do, These are just more general tests that they could check on just to make sure that you are feeling your best and that it's not something else going haywire. They will probably do an EGFR. I can't remember what the abbreviation is for, but that test checks your kidneys and the functionality of those. They'll probably also test your vitamin D levels, your vitamin B12, and any other B vitamins they might want to check. And they will probably check your A1C, which is your indicator about whether you are pre-diabetic or not, or if you have diabetes. So you want to be prepared for these tests. Most of the time, they get adequate blood the first time you come to run all of the tests. So this is not something you have to be constantly pricked for. However, if you are going to more than one medical provider, prepare to have to get more than one blood draw. It happens. And you will, depending on your doctors, you may have to coordinate between them because they may not communicate seamlessly across systems or just from office to office with the matter of faxing or forwarding information. Keep all of your records. That is your next step, actually, to get all of your documents, keep records of all of the testing that you've gotten done, and make sure that you sit down with the doctor to explain the results to you, even if you can read them. I don't care if you've got a positive AMA, all the rheumatoid factor, I don't care. No matter what the results say, sit down with your doctor until you are perfectly clear on what these test results mean for you. A lot of times, doctors are overscheduled and they don't always want to spend a ton of time with each patient. That's their problem. You are there to get care. And so you want to take your time with these results, make sure you're clear on them, because if you're not, there's always that question of, I really didn't get it. I really didn't understand. What do I need to do next? They may give you a little bit of guidance, but not much. You want to make sure that you take care of all of that by talking to them, telling them, talk me through this, explain to me what's going on. Because if they are thorough in their explanation, it can save you a lot of frustration down the line. So that's what you want to do. You're going to start taking your notes on what you are experiencing, get your doctor's appointments lined up, figure out what your insurance is talking about. Go to the specialist if you can. Prepare for the test that you're going to take. Do what they say as far as the testing. Some of these will be fasting tests, some of them won't, but do what you need to do for your test and then keep all the records and sit down with your doctor or specialist to explain the results to you. If you do these things, there is a very good chance that you will not spend years navigating the system to get a diagnosis. You will have more than enough information where even if you have to go to a completely different doctor or specialist at some point, you will have an abundance of information for them to make a determination on their own or to figure out what different tests or what different assessments are needed to help them make a determination. But for sure, this is what you need at the beginning: a record of your symptoms, doctor's appointments, clarity on what your insurance will cover and how to get those benefits, and a list of tests that you can expect as you go toward diagnosis. So that is it for today. I know that was a lot of information. I'll try to type up as much as I can to put into the description box for your convenience. But I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. Of course, I get back as soon as I can. I've been going into the office and I love it, but also it's been taking a little bit of my time. So I get to your questions as soon as I can and your comments as soon as I can. I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so much for staying here, for giving me great ideas for videos in the future. I have a couple of really fantastic ideas that came from you all, and it made such a difference to hear your feedback and to know that what I'm putting out is able to support you in your healthcare journey. So thank you for that. Any questions, let me know. Any thoughts, let me know. And I will talk to you all very soon. Bye-bye.